Okay guys, what we're going to be doing next period of instruction is going to be concealed carry. Now concealed carry is, first off, is a whole different class. Okay, but what we're doing is a familiarization today. You could run concealed carry in an entire class like we've been doing from the fundamentals ground up. But you guys know the basic fundamentals now. You're starting to get more proficient with them. So now all we're doing is the same thing except just throwing a wardrobe, a garment on of some sort. So we all have different garments on here. We're going to talk about those in a little wardrobe discussion here in a second. But what the most important thing to understand in concealed carry is the lifestyle. If you decide to go out and purchase a gun and get a concealed weapons permit based on your state laws, if you're allowed to do so or not, are you a liability or are you an asset to society? Okay, so now you got to think about that. Do you train with that gun? Do you come out to a course like this and train concealed with that gun? Well, you guys are going to be doing that, and you guys are going to be more proficient than most people out there that haven't taken a class. So you need to think about how you affect society, or if you're a liability to the general public or not. When I carry a gun, I carry a huge burden, and if that burden is what the courts call a higher standard of care. Okay, and that standard of higher care puts you in a category of person, and this is a big misconception out there that people have of you guys. If you decide to carry a concealed weapon, they look at you as a problem starter, when actually it's 180 degrees. We know that when we carry a handgun, that if I get out into a fight, what could that fight possibly end with? Just a simple fisticuffs fight could end in what? Lethal force. So that tells me that I need to avoid all potential issues, confrontations. If you see somebody else fighting in a bar and you're carrying concealed, should you get involved? No, it's not your fight. Stay the hell out of it, especially if you're with your family. Now, if something happens in that bar and it escalates to somebody else pulling a gun and you just happen to be the person that can problem solve that situation and you have no family immediately to worry about or something else, and you make that one last conscious decision to pull your gun and end that fight, then that's a different story. But up until that point, you must make every single effort to avoid all confrontation. And that's the lifestyle that we have to walk around with, knowing that this thing is always here. Let's say you go out and you get your concealed carry permit, you get your gun, you've gone to training, you understand the lifestyle, you understand the laws in your local area or the areas that you may travel to, especially. You need to take into consideration that, because laws do vary from state to state, from city to city. One of the important things to understand is, as you travel around with that weapon system, is wardrobe and how to properly dress around the gun. And that's something that a lot of people don't take in consideration. Sometimes I will find myself getting a little lazy and it's hot out, and I'll either end up taking off the gun and going, I'm not going to wear it today, or I will underdress. Well, once you start underdressing, you got to realize the liability there that happens when there's brandishing a gun in public and things like that. Simple things like, I'm wearing a simple polo shirt today, but if I go into a store and I reach up on the top shelf, am I brandishing this gun right now? Yeah, I sure am. So I need to take that in consideration. So, everybody's wearing something different. Button-up shirts are typically what I would wear. Chris and I have different systems on today that we're just going to talk about. And if I'm wearing this type of garment, I've got to be very cautious of what I'm doing. And typically I would wear this only in like a colder environment, because I'd have probably a jacket over this, wouldn't I? And that way I can get the jacket out of the way and it's more comfortable for me. So it is a little bit about comfort, but it's more about utility. Okay, so making sure that you are dressing to the gun and making sure you can employ the gun generally in what we call a 2-second rule. Now, I don't like to go by times. Obviously, from what you guys have seen, the BSA has a general time frame, but our methodologies, our theories on that, as far as trying to get as many hits inside that time frame as possible. But the general rule of thumb for concealed carry is being able to employ your weapon system and get off the first shot within 2 seconds, because you do have more steps to do. And that's kind of a good thing to have those steps, because if you do, again, take on that lifestyle and you want to go out and conceal carry, you need to have that extra cognitive decision, that extra step there to employ that weapon, because you may just have to take somebody's life, okay? Or you may get yourself into a situation where you just may get your life taken. So that's the extra step you got to look for in a wardrobe. Okay, there's obviously a lot of different types of wardrobes and concealed carry options out there. Chris and I, we tend to kind of find the same thing, even though I'm, again, wearing something a little different today than what normal, but I do want to show the pull-up type techniques. Like Chris is wearing a long sleeve shirt right now, but it's real super lightweight, and he chooses this because he knows he's going to get to his gun the fastest. I would pretty much rather choose something like that as well. But if I do go with some type of t-shirt, because it is super hot, I want to make sure that I don't have any brandishing. Even with this on right now, I'm wearing a dark color, which generally is a better thing to wear. Darker colors, especially with blending with darker pants, will tend to help hide concealed carry a lot more. But even with this, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. I feel like I've got to always hide my gun and feel my gun, which is a good thing. It's a good thing to have that stress, that good positive stress as you're carrying a gun, to make sure it's always there, make sure you're not brandishing. And that's something else you need to be aware of when you put that wardrobe on. Talk about holsters really quick. Different types of holsters. I'm wearing a standard holster that I can be consistent with my normal draw. I'm wearing a Raven holster here, and I normally wear this same exact holster in my full-size gun when I'm training or doing any type of direct action type of shooting or missions. So I like consistency. You guys know our methodology on consistency, and I keep it the same by going the same with that. So think about that when you're choosing a holster, choosing a gun. How far off are you getting from what you normally do, what you're comfortable with? Am I being consistent? Am I drawing the same place? I tend to like to keep the gun and the mags in the same place if I did not have a concealment garb on. So if you're switching it way around, you need to be just as equally proficient with that other way, which means you got to train what? Twice as much, right? Okay, you can't just train 20% more, do a couple draws. You've got to be consistent in both methods. Typically the dress nowadays is getting pretty standard for guys. Button-up shirts, making sure you're a little baggier or you got a jacket on. Making sure on jackets, on that specific note, that you're not getting zippers and pull cords are really bad. If you get go out and buy a really expensive jacket, you don't really want to pull those pull cords out and cut it, well, you better make that decision. And if you're going to be carrying a gun, I don't care how expensive that jacket is, it's going to work for me in that 1% rule. That 1% that I do need to pull that gun, it better work and it better not get caught. Especially if I pull the gun out of the holster and there's a drawstring on the side, guess what typically happens once a gun comes out? Where do those drawstrings go? Where do those little friction that the shock cord adjusters go? Down in the holster or maybe in the side. And then when I speed holster that gun, what typically happens there? Gets in the trigger guard and you can have a possible negligent discharge into your leg or into somebody else, and we don't want that in a dynamic stress situation. So you got to be really careful about that with jackets. Garth, since you're a law enforcement officer, can you tell us the difference between brandishing and printing, since brandishing is typically known as a legal term and printing is something different?
Basically, printing would be like where she bends over in the shirt. You know, you can see through the shirt that there's something there, whereas you know, brandishing isn't really a term that we would get into with just showing the gun unless there was intent there in most states. But again, you need to know what your local laws are because each state might be a little bit different. But when we're talking about concealed carry, what we're looking for is that the gun isn't shown. So this is concealed, but as soon as I do this and reach up and my shirt exposes where my weapon's at, that's no longer considered concealed. Brandishing can get into a whole different thing because there's intent there with showing the gun, generally speaking. So.
All right, thanks, Garth. That's good knowledge, and it's obviously wise for everybody to pick up a book and start reading about the laws in their area or talk to people if they have any questions on that. Moving more on the printing, since printing is obviously an issue, we don't want to print. We want to make every effort possible to conceal that gun. Can you throw me her bag, Scott? Okay, so for her to avoid printing, since it's hot out, she wants to wear just one shirt instead of a jacket or something else to where she's even hotter. She can use a carry bag or something like this, and now if she did need to go for her gun, she does have to incorporate this into the training by getting the bag out of the way and the garment, which is kind of a one-motion thing. So she's going to need to train like this, or anybody would if they decided to carry like that. So thanks, Willie. All right, talking more about different types of carries. I think most generally everybody out here is carrying some type of waist rig, which I think is going to be more the most efficient type of platform to draw a gun out from concealment. But there are various types out there. Some guys go into maybe an undercover mode and they've got to have guns a little bit more concealed, maybe inside the belt type holsters. Make sure with an inside the belt type holster that it's a good solid form. Actually, Willie had one on that is a leather backing, which provides comfort, but then it's got a Kydex or a polymer sheath on the outside, so when you do have to pull that gun under stress, and maybe it's an active shooter situation and you're in a mall and you engage, you got to get that gun back away. You're not going to run around that mall with that gun exposed, because guess what's going to happen next? Probably law enforcement's going to be showing up. You know, maybe you got to pick up your kids and get out of there. You don't want to be running around and going, yeah, the active shooter went over that way, when they were pointing at you instead of the actual active shooter. So I like to be able to put my gun away quickly, single-handed only, and typically some of the leather holsters that get old and worn, they'll start to close in on you. So you got to be careful with that with an inside the belt soft holster. So I like to go a little bit harder, a little Kydex, and make sure that I've got good rigidity there. Talking about some other holsters, inside the pants, I try to stay away from that. There are some good ones out there that you can employ the gun quickly, but it's still kind of an issue for me. I don't like pointing things at things I don't like to shoot, so I try to stay away from that area. You've got other options, pockets, okay? Pocket guns. A lot of people call them backup guns. That's pretty much what it is. I would never carry my primary gun or concealment gun in a pocket, because there's just too many things that can go wrong. There are some okay systems out there that you can put a holster in your pocket that stays in there. You can get your hand in good, but then you got to wear your wardrobe around the gun. What kind of pants are you wearing? Tighter pants, looser pants. Typically you're going to want a looser pocket so you can get your hand in there, get the gun out, but it's got to be a happy medium. It can't be too loose where the holster comes flying out with the gun, and it can't be too tight to where you can't get your hand in your pocket. So again, I don't like to have any issues or problems. I like efficiency and speed, so I'm going to go where I know is fast for me. Backup guns. We got ankle holsters. Continuing to talk about backup guns. Backup guns are typically pretty much that. This gun is my primary gun. If I'm an off-duty law enforcement, or if I'm undercover or something like that, or the situation applies for me, maybe you're going overseas, maybe an ankle gun is a choice for you. I don't know, but you need to also make sure you got the wardrobe set there. Make sure your pants will work, where you can do a single hand grab and pull your pants up. Like right now, I can't pull my jeans up because they're a little bit snug on my thighs. But down low, maybe I can get into it. So I've got to apply the right technique that gets that gun employed. So kind of a last resort there to carry on ankle as far as I'm concerned, but some guys like doing it and it works for them. So because they have to wear different types of outfits or gear that forces them to go that route. All right, so that's just touching a little bit on concealed carry. Again, like I said in the beginning, it is an entire class in itself. There are just enormous amounts of books out there on concealed carry, and I suggest, again, not just going out to the range and shooting guns and not just picking up gun magazines, but pick up your books that tell you the laws, tell you about wardrobe. There's some really good books out there that will go from A to Z on concealed carry. So we highly suggest you go out there and touch on that, because we're not going to cover everything here today. This is a familiarization course. Okay, you guys got any questions? All right, let's head down the range.
All right, guys, now it's time for more practical application. Once that gun comes out of the holster, shooting is shooting. But we're going to talk about some different methods based on some of the different garments that you guys are finding yourselves in or may find yourself in. Specifically, I want you to understand this. We talk about, as we're in training, trying to, do a do-over, so to speak. Try to run it as clean as possible to keep as consistent as we can. You're going to find that you get one chance. All right, if you are under stress and you need to protect yourself or others, you get one chance, which means that we're going to run this rule while we're out here shooting concealed, and that is specifically you take what you can get, and as long as it is safe and you're not going to lose control of the weapon, that gun comes out. I will tell you, sometimes when I draw my gun, I might have a little shirt mixed up with it. What is your priority? Clearing your shirt out of the way or neutralizing the threat? Neutralizing the threat. Sometimes when you speed reload, you might have a little bit of garment. Fix it, get it out of the way, get it back into the gun. These are all going to present problems to you. Different positions are going to cover up your magazines, your weapon system. It's your job to get it out of the way and try to employ that weapon as fast as possible, which means I like to play it how it lies. That is, get the gun into the fight. Don't sit there and go, oh, that sucked, that really sucked, I'm going to do it again. You're not going to get a second chance in front of somebody who's got a gun on you, okay? So let's cover garments real quick. My shirt's open, so I have it unbuttoned. Again, another decision depending upon how windy of a day it is. First thing that I'm going to do is I've got a thumb method. I can bring the thumb into the center of the chest, come back, start that sweep underneath my shirt right here, then drive down and establish a grip. I will tell you, I generally do not like to do this particular technique on a thin, lightweight fabric shirt because it's very difficult to get that thumb in there, and in many cases I end up slipping past and not getting a good consistent draw every single time. That 95% rule comes into play here. What works for you based on your garment 95% of the time. The next one is I can come in and just curl the fingers in to the center of my chest. As I start to move the garment out of the way, drive down, establish a grip, punch out from there, okay? That is yet another method. Again, those are generally good for good heavyweight jackets. You can use them on a shirt if you want to, depending upon how thick it is. Again, these are choices that you need to think about. I like just crushing fabric. I like coming down, whether my hands are up, of course, and then just coming in, grabbing garment, throwing it out of the way, driving down and establishing a grip, punching out from there. If this is the shirt that I wear all the time, do you guys know anything that I could do to this shirt to help aid this thing in flying back out of the way to allow me to get up?
Weight in the bottom or in a pocket.
Exactly, you can do a little weight and sew it in. All right, if you take this seriously, those are some of the things that you can do as a good, competent person who utilizes a weapon system for self-defense. Anything else on jackets? Something that you guys, have cars. Where do you think I usually put my keys if I'm wearing a jacket? Right there in gun side. So I've got a little bit of weight to throw that jacket out of the way. Now, if you start to see bad things happening, let me ask you this: should you wait until that bad thing happens to get your hand in this position? No. Can you already just reach down? I have this little analogy. If it smells like shit and it looks like shit, it's probably what? Shit. Then get down there and grab some fabric. Just hold on to it. If something bad happens, throw it out of the way, punch out from there. Okay? Now, what about if you're wearing a t-shirt, like Travis is wearing a t-shirt right here? He's got his whole shirt covering it.
Or you got your button-up shirt buttoned up.
Just like that.
Only technique you can really do there is there's actually two techniques. Some people will grab and try to get the garment out of the way. I'm using my fingers here, a lot of dexterity, and trying to get the gun. Typically, you're going to get some grab on the shirt and the gun at the same time. I like to bring my reaction hand over and crush grip like Chris just showed on the weapon side. Pull it up and make sure it's clear. Pull it all the way up to your shoulder if you can. Okay? So for you guys rolling buttons up, if they're kind of tight on you, sometimes it may bind. So you got to get over on the gun. Don't just grab the front and pull up. You got to get on the gun and pull up.
Other considerations that you need to think about, whether you're out with your friends, I will generally walk on the outside of them. Why is that? So I can get to my gun. I don't want to be, have somebody over here blocking that ability, or if I'm with my family, especially my children, and I'm gonna hold their hands to go across a parking lot or a street or a road, I don't want to do that and tie up my weapon hand. I'll tie up my reaction hand with them, so if something happens, I grab garment, punch out, and I'm going, grabbing my kid and getting out of that situation. Remember, it may be just you by yourself. What if you take fire? If you take fire and you're hit in this arm and you literally can't work it anymore, then guess what you're doing? A one-handed draw, so you better be able to also clear your garment with one hand. That just happens to be right now my weapon hand. If we go to when things go wrong and they go wrong fast, you better also be able to get this gun out and employ it and do what you need to do with your reaction hand. That means if you're running a t-shirt like Travis and he has to grab his gun with just his weapon hand, obviously those are good techniques for you to practice as well.
You'll see how I pull it and tuck it down inside, so I'm not getting. That's another technique you can do, okay?
So these are considerations that you need to think about. Generally, in some form of fashion, at some time, if you do a lot of shooting concealed, things will get in the way. Again, what's your priority? Getting your gun up. Also, keep in mind, you may need to get your gun back into your holster, and you may only have one hand, because if I'm grabbing my daughter and I've got her tied up in this hand and I just got done shooting somebody, and right now my priority is to get her out of here, and I'm running by other law-abiding citizens or law enforcement officers that could be off duty, we don't want to be mistaken for the gunman. You better be able to one-handed get that thing in there and get it holstered, because you've got something tying up this hand. Those are other considerations. That's why I like running hard Kydex. That way it doesn't fold on me. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple demos of some different methods that you guys are actually going to be practicing.
All right, so first thing Chris is going to demonstrate is the thumb method. Remember, he's got that thin shirt on, so he's going to try his best to get it out of the way. You see a little inefficiencies there for him. Now he's going to try the hook method. Gun! A little bit more efficient. All right, let's try the crush method. Now Chris is going to do the crush grip from the already grab. He's in a liquor store or something, or he's in a convenience store at night, and he sees some bad people come in, and he's going to make that extra cautious decision. Here he goes. He's going to grab it. Do it!
Couple things, guys, that you need to think about. One is getting it back into the holster. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm bringing the gun back, starting to clear garment out of the way, and then I am holstering. That works great with two hands, right? So with one hand, if I end up having the gun out, one of the things is, if I don't have this reaction hand, what am I gonna do to get the gun back into the holster? I will come in, start to break grip, establish a contact with the shirt, bring it back, drop it into the holster. Does that make sense? So little things here can really aid you so that you're not just shoving fabric into your holster. It's a little awkward at first. Again, gun comes in, I break my grip right here like this, grab fabric, move the fabric out of the way, exposing the holster, drive it straight down.
Do not ever speed holster your gun. You can quickly holster it, but that doesn't mean just slam it in there, because if you do have a zipper, it's wintertime, you got a shock cord or something stuck in there, you're going to negligently discharge that gun, especially if it's like a double action only type of system, or your safety, or maybe just happens to engage that little striker fire trigger safety on some of these striker fire guns. It can happen, and I don't like to take that chance. So again, using that method, clearing it out of the way, and don't ever speed, slam that thing down in there. So make sure it's clear. I'll even take an extra second and look and make sure that I'm identifying it's clear before I holster it.
All right, now Travis is gonna run it in a t-shirt. I'll run him. Shooter, stand by. He's got a gun! Do it! One of the things you're quickly gonna find is there might be some grip adjustment because you didn't get that good purchase out of the holster, okay? Just deal with it, work your problems and solve them, okay? You guys have any questions? All right.
Work on the draw.
Line it up. All right, guys, 2 shots. Shooter, stand by. Done! As you can see right now, it's kind of taking you both hands to work that gun back in. So if you had your other hand tied up, holding and controlling, you know, your kid or somebody else, it would be a little bit more difficult for you because you'd have to take that hand off and holster up.
So guard, get it out, gun, and then thumb. I want you to look at that thumb, there you go, and then drive the gun out. Let's try it. Guard, gun, thumb.
Now Scott, look what's happening. Look what's happening. You can look, it's your body, right baby? So clear your shirt, drive it down. That's reality, right?
Yes, sir.
The best thing to do is look, because even fabric, as it starts to bunch up, can become a little durable, okay, in regards to creating some friction on the trigger, enough on a 1911 that if it didn't have a safety or it wasn't on because it was under stress when you holstered, it could go off. All right, guys, couple things that I'm starting to see and it's starting to carry over. It's an efficiency thing. When we're here in this position, you draw, punch out, fire, fire. You guys are coming back in, going to a knee, punching back out, fire, fire. Coming back in, standing up, fire, fire. All that we need you to do is, once you come out of the holster, I fire, fire, fire. That's it. You're just merely changing positions. So I'm going to go hot.
Going hot.
Now, is there a time in reality where you'd have to search and assess? Yeah, maybe. But for this drill, we just want repetition of driving the gun, driving it down into another position, and trying to acquire the sights again as quickly as you possibly can to get those shots off as quickly as you possibly can. Frozen? What happened there?
Check. I heard check.
Okay. Well, nobody was checking there, were they? You didn't know because you didn't look around. Don't get tunnel vision. Focus.
Okay. Now what I've done is I've set myself up so I've got 2 rounds. On this drill, you're going to do that same motion, except now once I turn, look, and identify, I'm going to drop immediately. So I'm dropping prone for a position of advantage. I've only loaded 2 rounds in my gun, so I'm going to be at slide lock. You're going to notice that depending upon how your garment is, it's going to cover up your source of ammunition. I always like to carry at least 1 spare mag on me. That way, my worst case scenario is I have an ammo related problem, I fire, I have a double feed. What's the steps? Lock bolt to the rear, strip the magazine, rack. I don't want to retain that 1 magazine. I want to go to my belt line and get that gun fed as fast as possible. So that's why I, not you, like to carry a spare magazine. Now here, what you're going to notice is it's going to bite me a little bit because I'm laying on it, which means I'm going to have to roll, get garment out of the way. I use the same method. I just grab shirt, throw it out of the way. For you, Garth, you're just going to grab your t-shirt up, drive down on top of your magazine, accessing it, and set yourself up for success from there. Any questions with that? All right, so I'm going to do this on my own because this is what you guys are normally doing. And I'm out. You guys get the picture? A little bit of movement going on there, getting to those body parts. Thing is, remember, where's that gun? In your workspace. Outstanding. Line it up. All right, face right. You guys know the drill, so now we're on key. React off key. 5 prone, 3 kneeling, 3 standing. Punch back out. Obviously, as a side note, one of the most important things to think about when running a compact like this is making sure, depending upon your hand size, your thumbs aren't going past the muzzle, which means you might have to do that particular technique in order to not blow your thumbs off. Thank you, Scott. 2 more positions that we're going to cover right now that you could find yourself in. If for some reason you're involved in an incident where somebody comes in, starts holding everybody hostage, I'm not going to tell you whether you should pull a gun out or not if you are armed. That is not my business. What I'm going to tell you to do is if you do decide to go to that gun, here's some fundamentals that you want to think about, all right? If they start you off with your hands behind your head, I try to not ever keep my hands up. So if they say keep your hands up, I'll go right here because this is hands up. But it allows me quick access to my gun, okay, without telegraphing as much. The distance between here and here now, you see the point? So if I need to surrender, hey, don't shoot, whatever the case is right here, and then I'll come in, grab garment, access my weapon system, boom, boom, boom. No matter what you do, if you're kneeling or if you're prone, your priority is neutralize, get to your feet as fast as possible because you are probably going to want to leave, all right? You can call back to the frickin' coroner's office and let them know where they can go find the body at that point. But your priority is to get out of there. Now, I've got my shirt, worst case scenario, completely buttoned up right now. Obviously, I would just grab, come out, and fire. So we're going to work this. If your hands are behind your head, same thing. I don't interlock, all right? Don't interlock your fingers because under stress, when you do decide to make a move, you could tighten up. And then next thing you know, I look over, I see you starting to make a move, and then I get my gun back on you, and then I shoot you. So the best thing to do is leave your hands. Now let me ask you, knowing which hand grabs my gun, which hand am I going to leave on the outside? The gun hand, right? I'll take every advantage I can get. Be very careful of doing this because if you also put your hands up, what might you expose? Your gun. And you don't want them knowing that you're armed, okay? All right, so from here, all that we're going to do is I'm going to access the weapon system, punch out, engage, and then stand up. That's where we're going to finish. We will finish these 2 drills standing. Now, because we're going to do another position as well, we're going to go again with worst case scenario. We're going to lay down on the ground. Hands, same thing. Do not stick them all the way out, because what does it start to do to your shirt? Bring it up. This is gonna be one of those things that you can play the, oh, I've got knee injuries, and be very careful as you start to lower yourself to the ground so that you don't expose your gun. So where you keep your gun is important too. I always try to keep mine right on my side. I don't like to keep it back here because I like being able to pull it out and get it up on target as fast as possible. So for this one, I'm gonna try to keep my hands right by my face. You're gonna wanna be able to take in as much information as possible. You're gonna wanna know where that guy is. So as you're laying down, you're gonna wanna be able to see what is happening downrange. You're gonna have to push off the ground. So as I lay down right here, right? As I lay down and I'm here, I'm watching what's going on. All right, I'm not moving, don't fidget. So don't make any movements, I watch what's going on. From here, I'm gonna go right to my knee. Get up, get my shirt up, punch out, stand up. Any questions there? This is one of those things that, again, personally, you are gonna have to evaluate based on your injuries and your body mechanics. Some of you may not be able to move fast. If you can't move fast, maybe you ought to not pull your gun out. So there's the way the drill is going to start off. Any questions with those two positions? All right, let's get out. Kneeling position. Hands behind your head, weapon hand out. Shooters, stand by. Bust them.
Hey Garth, even think about the efficiency, since you got to take this hand all the way over here, run it straight down your body. So this is the anal retentiveness we're looking for in an excessive waist movement. Instead of coming out here, see how your hand now starts to swing out and around, run it right down your body. Okay. That's actually going to speed it up under stress. Right down.
Done!
Same with you, Stewie. Don't come out like this, come straight down. So you're coming right down your body. Boom.
Done! Again, if you make a decision to go for your gun, do it. At that point, once you start that motion, good or bad, you're committed. All right, so follow through is the most important thing. Now, I had you guys coming up to your knees. You know, if I know how fast I can move, I'm gonna move, try to get to a better position of advantage and get going. And one reason why I like doing that, and I saw some of you guys get up on 2 knees, some actually got a foot up underneath you. What is that gonna provide you? The ability to get the heck out of there. So once you commit, if things went really bad, meaning even worse, at least now you get the mobility to move from point A to point B. If you are on the ground and you do decide, okay, because again, we're not absolute, you decide to take the guy while prone, just remember, you're still prone, okay, and bullets skip off of things. So I like to get up and get mobile as fast as possible because it's harder or easier for a threat to hit a moving target. Harder, and I am going to be moving, okay? Do you guys have any questions for Travis and I on that drill?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
On the part that once you're committed, you're going to go for the gun. Would there ever be a situation, I mean, as far as the furtive movement is easier for someone to pick up on if they're not really paying attention to you and you're in that prone position, there might be a situation where you might want to just,
you ever seen Point Break?
Sneak it out.
Remember the movie Point Break? Remember the cop in the beginning? He's like, I'm a cop.
Yeah.
Pulls his gun out real slow. Absolutely. We could sit here and do the draw real slow and bring the gun up, but do we need to teach you guys how to go slow?
No.
Because you guys can do that.
Right.
We want to see how you go at 200 miles per hour, like Chris was saying, and see if you have a failure point in that 200 miles per hour. Because if you don't, because you guys have been running pretty hard out here, you guys are excelling, you're looking really good, you now know that you can do it slow. So that's why we're going to concentrate on when things go wrong.
Training for that worst case scenario.
Exactly.
Dad?
This taught me a good lesson. I could not do that and be confident from that holding position, so I have no business trying to do it. So it taught me a good lesson.
That's good. So for you, there's a limitation.
For me, with my fanny pack.
Okay. For others, it may not be.
So that's something everybody can take a look at here. Does your gear work in that 95% of the time? He likes that. He's comfortable with that. It works probably for everything that you do
So far.
in your lifestyle. And but maybe, you know, you may find yourself on the ground a lot. I don't know. And you may want to think about gear choice there. So it's a good point. All right, you guys heard Chris talking earlier about moving around in general public with people, your friends, your family, whatever the case may be. That's a reality, and that factor we're going to build into this next evolution right here. What's going to happen is we're going to throw in some offline of attack around an object or around another human being. Maybe I'm sitting here talking to Chris and he sees something. He needs to get that dynamic offline of attack, which you guys have already done, right? So this should be a pretty simple movement. We're just throwing in a little bit more reality. Obviously, it's going to be situational dependent of what you can do. You can what if it to death, but we're just concentrating on weapons manipulation around an object or, again, another human. So the drill is actually pretty simple. All Chris is going to do is we're going to go back and forth. We're going to break up into two groups, and he's going to move to the left side and then the right side and then around in front. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more here. Right! Left! Forward! Now you guys can see where, some of you guys, especially law enforcement and military, can see where this could come into play if you're making room clearing type of operations or something. I've used this a lot. It's called barricading somebody else, because I don't know. Maybe I'm working on a suspect. Maybe I'm working on a down shooter, doing tactical medical emergency or something, emergency medicine. And a doorway's behind me. This happens a lot. We make entry into a room and we clear our corners and we process, we're dealing with something, and then I notice an open door over here. I'm gonna run over there in front of that other guy and barricade to safeguard his life and also now own that new territory that I could possibly turn into a threat situation. So there's all kinds, again, what ifs and scenarios that this can be applied in, but again, let's get the manipulation down. You guys have already done offline of attack. Real simple stuff. Chris?
Yeah, when sometimes people don't realize that you can't always pull your gun right away. You might have to actually clear some people, if there are people, your children, wife, girlfriend, or just other innocent bystanders around, especially for LEOs that find yourself in this situation probably more often than everybody else. You have to sometimes maneuver before you can get your gun actually out, or you're going to start sweeping everybody. You are still trying to what though? On the move. You're still trying to get your body parts there, okay, as best as possible. Now, being in an open rig is so much easier than obviously moving with your shirt and concealment, so there's always factors there. But what this also goes to show other people is, it's not just always simple as I pull my gun, point it at somebody, and then maneuver around them. I may have to wait and then employ that gun. That's why we try to stick to that 2-second rule. That 2-second rule is extremely important to clear garment and get 2 shots on target. Anything else?
All right, let's go ahead and try it. What we're gonna do is get online right now. We're gonna break it up into 1s and 2s. All right, go ahead and get online.
As soon as I call out the direction, you will initiate movement. That direction is right, left, and forward. 5 shots. Shooter, stand by. Right. Left. Forward. Group 2, take the position of Group 1. Right. Forward.
I was getting ready to reload. I pulled it out. I had 1 left in there. I slammed the cylinder back, made sure it was there, and I took 1 more shot.
Okay.
I thought that would be faster.
Okay. Now let's get her loaded, because I know you got more ammo, so let's always be in a habit of, as soon as you run dry, top that thing off.
Well, I was, but you were asking me a question.
That's fine.
Don't talk back to me.
He's talking back to me. He'd be in timeout right now. Okay, I'll stand and drop.
All right, let's reiterate. We're gonna move into some single hand manipulation, but why do you think we call what we used to call the weak hand and the strong hand, now the weapon hand and reaction hand. Anybody got any idea why we'd want to call it that?
You don't want to call it weak.
You don't want to call it weak, because one day that hand just might save your life, right? Okay, so we want to get rid of those weak terminologies and start bringing back that warrior genetic building block. This is my weapon hand. This is a reaction hand. It reacts to things, it grabs things, it supports this hand, but it also can be turned into a weapon hand. Now, we talked about when things go wrong. You keep hearing us say that. Why do we want to shoot with two hands, vice one hand? It's easier, right? Well, I'll tell you, man, I've actually seen a couple of schools and stuff that are teaching crazy, ridiculous one-hand dynamic assaulting techniques, which are just completely asinine, because we know from the mechanics that the path of least resistance is there, correct? Now, we also know that we may have to find ourselves doing that, because when things go wrong, whether you get shot, or you fall down, you break your hand or your arm, or you're carrying somebody or something, you're going to have to manipulate that weapon system single hand only. So we need to be proficient at doing that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start working some reps back and forth with the reaction hand and the strong hand only. You're going to find now that you're in concealment, some of these issues are going to be oriented towards your gear. Is your holster in the right place? Can you get your garment out of the way and draw with the reaction hand? We're going to do that here in a second. Some of you guys that are carrying in the small of your back, can you do that? I know, Willie, you're carrying the small of your back, so for your weapon hand, it's going to be the same, just like you've been doing, except you're not going to have any crush grab or any pull if you're wearing a t-shirt or polo shirt type. So what you're going to have to do now is make sure you clear that. Okay, getting the shirt out of the way, I like to tuck my thumb and then drive down into the gun. All right, if you're gonna get shirt in there, you're gonna grab it, just like Chris said earlier. You're gonna have to fix it, whip it out, and continue to drive through. So let's talk about weapon hand only. Now, notice, when I bring the weapon system out, the tendency for me is to drive it, and I want to keep the exact sight picture that I'm normally used to. I see a lot of guys try to turn the gun because there is a path of least resistance there, and they're trying to force pressure down. Just hold on to the gun. You're going to have that path of least resistance to the side. We've already talked about the mechanics, but remember the 3 core principles? Remember the 7 principles that we broke into 3 categories? So what can I have?
You can lose one.
Right, so what am I losing here? So what do I need to have here? Okay, so I'm utilizing that. I'm also crushing this grip as hard as I can on the weapon hand, but it does have path of least resistance there. That's why my shots went to the left. Okay, slightly to the left, combat effective, but they're still to the left. Let's talk about reaction hand. Now, can you successfully draw this weapon system with your reaction hand? Some of you guys may be able to, some of you guys may not, so you may have to adjust your gear a little bit. There's 2 methods in which to do this. The first method is to clear the garment out of the way, grab the gun, spin it in the holster. Now you see what's starting to happen to me here? I'm pushing it against my body, making sure that my finger is straightened off the trigger, and then driving the gun up and out on target. Okay, so that is kind of a difficult thing to do. But if I'm running, if I'm moving, I'm trying to get my gun out, I may just have to try to utilize that technique. For me, I like to get offline. If I'm shot, I'm probably going to be hauling ass. I'm not going to stick around, because now I'm trying to draw a weapon from my weapon side with my reaction hand, and I am shot. So I'm probably going to be taking time to do that anyways. So let's get to a position of cover where I can easily get the gun up, out, static position. And now it took only a second instead of worrying about dropping the gun or worrying about shooting myself again. So that's the technique that I prefer. If the situation, of course, dictates, I'm going to take cover, get the gun out, utilize the leg pinch. So let's see that with the reaction hand. I'm going to try it both ways here. Now I'll try the leg pinch. Did you guys notice my feet move there at all? All right, if I utilize the leg pinch, I'm gonna bring the gun out. Watch my knees. pinch. So now I didn't bring my feet in because I'm gonna keep my fingers up the trigger here. I'm not gonna step in so I can pinch because now I've got feet in the way. In the case there is an accidental discharge, or what I would call a negligent discharge at this point, I'm not gonna shoot myself in the foot. So again, knees come together, gun comes up. Let's talk about dominance issues. Some of us have, anybody here right-handed and left eye dominant, or vice versa? The tendency, you guys are probably already used to shifting your eyes, right? Because your dominant eye naturally takes control, correct? All right, so dominant eye naturally takes control. I just shift my head to make that happen. When I come out with this hand, if you're left eye dominant and now you've switched to your reaction hand, which is now your weapon hand, you should be in line. You shouldn't have to shift your head at all. So for you guys, it'll actually be easier. But the tendency, again, is to try to shift the gun over and tilt it so it gets in line with this eye. If I'm right eye dominant, which I am, now I have the gun in my left hand, I'm going to want to tilt it in. Okay, but I don't like to do that because I like to have the same sight picture that I'm used to seeing all the time. So all I would need to do is turn my head or keep the gun straight, and my dominant eye will still take control. Okay, my dominant eye is taking control no matter what. All this tank stuff, all you're doing is causing a greater path of least resistance in the direction that you don't want, and you're not having a consistent sight picture. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice that a little bit. We're going to work out the gear issues. Willie, let me see out here real quick so we can show you, people, in case you're carrying a middle of the back holster. Some people like to carry there, but what I want you to do, Willie, is try to reach over with your reaction hand and draw that gun. Okay, you see where her gun is back here? That's almost impossible for her to do. So she's going to have an issue here. So now go ahead and draw it the way you can. Now pull the gun out, but look at the garment, and now watch what she's doing. She's got to be very careful and very safe getting that gun out. And then she's probably going to have to fix her grip like she just did. All right, so go ahead and holster your gun now with your weapon hand. All right, thanks, Willie. So she's going to have to work that out. And anybody else that carries their weapon system like that is going to have to work on that as well and be very proficient at that technique. Can be good as long as you're safe. Gun stay in a safe direction, coming around. All right, let's go ahead and get online. We're going to work some reps out here for a little bit. All right, here we go, shooters. We're going to fire weapon hand only. Draw the weapon, extend it out, get that side line of sight picture. Give me 4 shots. Good. Something else you might be able to do is I like to whip it up and down if you get some garbage in the way, and that might just help you for when you start going over here. Don't throw your body back like this. You look like Superman coming out of the phone booth, man. Just kind of chill, gun up, okay? Gotcha. Reaction hand, 4 rounds. You can utilize either method, either the holster spin method or the leg pinch method. Gun! Just bring that gun back in here and hit your card up. Knock it back in battery, okay?
Roger that, sir.
Slide home. There you go. Look at your grip, look at your grip. All right, safe and holster.
All right, guys, you just got done doing some one-handed manipulation. Now let's go to worst case scenario, which is you end up having one of a few different types of the malfunctions, okay? So let's look at first slide out of battery. I'll do weapon hand, then I'm gonna switch it over, set it up for a reaction hand. Couple things here. I like hard Kydex holsters, or at least a good hard leather holster that's bounded and kind of double stitched over with extra layers of leather there. But the reason is sometimes you need hard points. The good thing about a cop or in the military, for you guys that are in the military, you guys have plates right here. So what can you do to get your slide back in a battery? Boom, right off the chest, I'm back in a fight, okay? For me, I'm not gonna drive that thing into my chest. So I will go off of a hard point. What else could you use if you were in a convenience store taking cover? Use a counter, use a rack, whatever you need to do to get that thing up. So if you do find yourself with, you have that fanny pack, or you're carrying a leg rig and you don't have the luxury of a hard point, you have other options. Find an object, get the slide back in a battery. All right, slides out of battery, gun won't fire. I attempt to fire, it won't. Bring the gun back, hard point, drive back out, press, press. Search and assess. Reaction hand, same thing. For me, I'll use my mag pouch. I'll come back, hit off the mag pouch, drive up, search and assess. Any questions on that? All right, now the next one is stovepipe. I will again try to get that stovepipe off the corner of my holster if I can. For some of you running thick belts, you can possibly use your belt. Whatever you do when you orientate this gun, understand with the stovepipe, what's almost in the chamber? A live round. So anything you do, you need to do with that muzzle either in that direction or any direction that does not cover your body parts. You can do it off your pant leg, but I would again go off something that's a little bit harder. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do it both ways. You'll find on the one-handed drills with stovepipe, sometimes you'll cycle that casing so hard, it may just cycle the gun again. If that happens, oh well. The important thing is getting it back into the fight. All right, so weapon hand only. I'm up on target, I've got a stovepipe, bring it back, clear it, press, press. Search and assess, pretty simple. All right, stovepipe, reaction side. Punch out, I identify. Press, press. Okay. Now, what's one of the other ones? Okay, before that one. Okay, so what would I have to do? What's some of the things that I have to do to get the gun back up into the fight? Tap and rack. Okay, where's some of the places I can tap? Leg, okay, be careful depending upon the style of base plate that you're running. Where else is another good hard point? Holster, off the side. Again, another reason why I like carrying these holsters. Inside the pants, if it's a good hard Kydex holster that won't fold on you, then you'll be okay with this. Other than that, you're just pounding the gun into your hip, which you might as well just use the top of your leg. Don't do your knee or any bony parts. All right, so I'm going to set it up. Weapon hand only. Find a hard point. Search and assess. Same thing, reaction side. All right, on the reaction side, what did I use to chamber? My pants. Now, what I've done on my gun is I've actually put grip tape across the top of the slide. That's why I have grip tape there. Grip tape also helps me for power stroking, okay, in case I'm sweaty, bloody, slippery, whether it's your blood, their blood, or it's raining, find yourself in weird environments. Point being is a little bit of skater tape across the top of the slide helps facilitate that. So if I didn't have a good hard point, I could still chamber off that. Any questions with tap, rack, bang? All right, working a double feed. What's one of the first things that I need to do? Lock it back. So you're gonna see here that your grip has to change. Remember the direction of the way the slide stop works. Okay, you gotta put pressure in this direction straight up to get this portion to lock. So the pressure has to go in this way. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is take pressure off that, driving the slide up. So I may even break my grip on this one if I have to, if you need to. If you're running ambidextrous controls, it could help. So I am going to try my best to lock this. Slide is now locked. I'm hoping that the magazine will depress and fall. Now I still have a round in there. If I do, I'll slide forward. Might as well assist myself as much as I can. I have that. You see what just happened? That's fine. How do you think I'm going to clear it? I'll just grab it, come right off. I will go back to the holster, insert a new magazine. This is just one option. Come back up, cycle again. What other option do I have aside from the holster? Pinch your legs, okay? So as Travis showed before, you can pinch your legs. In fact, when you switch over to the reaction side, you'll realize it's very difficult to get this gun in the holster at that point. Though it can be done, maybe the legs is the best option. When would putting a gun between your legs not be a better option?
If you needed to move.
There you go. If you need to move, then at least keep that gun on you, move from point A to point B, and then try to fix it from there. All right, reaction hand, a little bit tougher. come out. I'll try to get my trigger finger up underneath it, go to a hard point. From here, there's one thing that you can't see that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move my trigger finger there, I just naturally do it, and I'm gonna try to go to this hard point right here. To help facilitate that, I'm gonna put counter pressure behind the tang of the grip with my thumb. So what that'll allow me to do is, as I drive forward, it locks, okay? Now, if I had my hand here, a lot of times my hand moves and rotates, therefore I can't put pressure going this way, which is where I need it to go to lock it. So now that it's locked, bring the gun up, hopefully the magazine falls, come back up, wrap, I saw it come out. Now I can go between the legs, so I'll simulate this one, insert a new magazine, come back up, any questions with those techniques? For me, based on my body type, I am able to get the gun back in the holster. So I'll roll that gun if I need to, whether it be between my legs, put it back in, run. I can even get to where my body will turn and I can get a mag in there. Not everybody's body type is like that, or gun types, because if you run a longer gun, that may not work for you, or the spot on which you carry the gun. So then what does that limit you to? Going between your legs, and that is an important thing that you need to know. That way you've been there before in that dynamic situation.
Okay guys, moving on to the next thing, let's talk about barricades. We are doing absolutely nothing different than what you've been doing all day long. We're still working the fundamentals. All we're doing is we're putting an object in front of you. You've already manipulated movement around people, and now we're going to put something there that could possibly hurt you. So that's what I really want to focus on here right now. This is not tactics. This is weapons manipulation. You got a very fine line there that people kind of mix up, but I think it's kind of more of a solid line. I think you got kind of weapons manipulation, and then you've got tactics. Well, this is the 1%. Weapons manipulation is the foundation of tactics. Tactics is the 99% of the rest of your life, if that's what you do, if you're military or law enforcement, or if you want to do some better home defense schools like protecting your home and home invasion plans and stuff like that. That's when you get into the mission planning, the movement around people, and starting getting into scenarios. We're not doing that here. We're just working manipulation of your handgun around an object. And the key things that we want to focus on here are the relationship to us, our cover or concealment in this case, and then our target. Okay, so that'll kind of get into a little of the gray area there as far as the tactics is concerned, but we just want you to set yourself up for that other 99% when you start doing that. So what I want to show you guys here is when you step up on any obstacle, whether it's a drywall in your house, a concrete wall, maybe it's an armored car, okay? Maybe it's a glass wall, a glass building or something. What I want to do is I want to draw an imaginary line here with my foot that I will never step across. Because if I step across and lean out and shoot, what do I have exposed right here? Okay, you got a femoral shot, and that is a bad thing. Okay, yeah, you still have your head and your arms exposed out here like this, but it's still less exposure, which sometimes may not cause some distraction from their end. They may not see you at first. So that's again when you're starting to get into the tactics. But right now, what you want to do is you do not want to expose yourself more than you have to. So I draw the line in relation to myself, the cover, concealment, and then there's my target. Now what I want to look for is making sure that my muzzle is clear, sights are clear, engage your target. Now, why I want to double check that muzzle? Why would you think?
Shrapnel.
Shrapnel. What if this is that armored car that I just mentioned? You lean out on the side of an armored car and bang! You are probably going to blind yourself or somebody else that may be next to you, and you're going to be now combat ineffective. So what's the point when you could have just simply problem solved and identified, just like you guys have been learning, right, this whole class. So we're going to problem solve, we're going to identify the cover, muzzle's clear, sights are clear, and then that's when on this particular target here, moving into what we're going to do, 4 rounds on your plate from this side, from the weapon side. Okay, if you get an opportunity to shoot the steel plate, the mover, you will shoot 4 rounds on it. It will not go past that. You cannot shoot any more past that center steel plate. Everybody understand? So that's your cone there. Now, stepping over to the other side, you're going to keep your weapon up here at the hockey press ready. You're going to draw that imaginary line, and you're going to extend the weapon system out because I want to be dynamic here. I'm not going to sit here and pie, there's a target, press out and shoot. I want to extend out, get a soft sight focus here looking down range, pop, boom, 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 come back in. If you get an opportunity to shoot the mover at that stage, then go ahead and put 4 rounds in the mover as well. What would I do now before I move on to my next station? Probably attack reload, okay? Smart thing to do, because you just fired 12 or so rounds, right? Maybe 16, depending on if you get an opportunity to shoot the mover or not. Simple rule. Be aware of your target's foreground and background. Sounds real familiar to day one, right? So when you get in the most extreme situations in your life one day, which some of you guys will, some of you guys have already been into, you can find that this very simple basic firearm safety rule applies in that most extreme situation, because you can put yourself out of the fight or somebody else out of the fight. Okay, or you could give yourself away. Next thing you know, he's returning fire on you and he's got a bigger gun, whatever the case may be. So that's why we follow those 5 firearm safety rules to a T. And the more you know them, the better shooter you're going to be, and it's going to start to become subconscious using them out here, manipulating around targets or obstacles or people. Let's move on to urban prone. Okay guys, we're working in the urban prone. Same rules applies over there on the barricade, the left and right. We're just going to get into the weapon side urban prone here. So when you move over here, you're going to move over here at the high compress ready with your muzzle depressed. Okay, seriously depressed, kind of in what we call a stool, which some of you law enforcement guys and military guys are used to. All we're doing is rotating the weapon system into a safe place. Okay, we're going to use that support hand when we get down, making sure we don't flag our hand with this weapon hand, so make sure you're clear. If you want to use that, if you want to utilize a peel up position, you can. Get down in your position and you're going to engage 4 rounds on the center plate. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you're down here, you'll then wait for your mover to come into play, and you are not allowed to shoot it until right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then once it goes out, you need to be aware of your surroundings. That same rules apply. You need to make sure your muzzle is clear, your sights are clear, because sometimes you'll concentrate on that front sight and you'll get that little tunnel vision going, right? And you're not going to see what's coming. The next thing you know, you're going to get splinters and screws in your face. So let's not try to do that today. Now let's talk about shooting the mover really quick since I'm on that subject. That's a moving target. It's about the speed of a jogging man. Okay, it looks a little faster because it's just a simple steel plate, but it's only jogging speed. So kind of visualize that as a real human being. Now, where do you think you should hold on that plate? Or on a human if they're running? Or would, kind of the leading edge at this range, we're at about 15 yards. You'd still hold on the cutting edge because that's going to get you center hits. You hold center, you're going to get rear hits or possibly shoot behind them. It happens. Okay, any questions on the urban prone weapon side? All right, let's go ahead and move over here to the squatting position. All right, let's talk about moving in that stool position again. Just mentioned it a second ago. If you were to aim in and break your hands back to the high compress ready, you guys notice how your hand kind of breaks off a little bit? Well, if you keep breaking it, bringing that thumb back and touch this other thumb, that's the textbook stool position. Okay, these fingers kind of as a reference point. And it's only just to manipulate or facilitate movement around objects or to move. So that's how I'd like you guys to move here. Just make sure you got in a safe position. That's all I care about. So we're going to move in here. We're going to play this position as it lies. I want you to come into a squat. We haven't done the squat position yet, have we? Have you squatted in your life though? Pretty simple everyday thing. We do it all the time. So you're just going to come in here. This is kind of a low squat. What I'd like to see is you guys try to extend out the gun, soft sight picture. So I'm not focusing here yet. I'm just soft sight. It's where it needs to be. But I'm getting ready to identify downrange. So I'm going to pop up. Muzzle's clear, sights are clear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here comes my mover, leading edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pop back down. I'm then going to go into attack reload at this point. Search and assess, and then we'll stool, and then you'll step off this way over to the berm, and then you will holster the gun.
Gun!
left side. Stay behind, get your stance, bring your up to the high press ready.
Okay, this is what I want you to do. Step back off of it. Now take it. Hot. Hit. Good job, good use of cover. Take the mover, he's coming back. Touch press. Hit. All right, next position.
Move to urban prone.
There you go. Mover's coming, take him. Hold. Miss.
Going to move to squat.
Take the mover.
Here it comes, here it comes! Pull out, pull, watch your muzzle, go over here and hold it.